Hey everyone, and welcome to another video in the Master Data Management in SQL series. My name is Elric, and in this video we're going to create tables to house our changes, our history and archive tables for our databases. But before we create those, we need to make a modification to one of our procedures, our table finder. I'm not going to do the full modification of changing all of these to selects or anything like that. I actually am saving that for I don't know if I'm going to do it in a video yet because it'd be a very long and boring video. But in this day 3, I'll be creating the processes to convert all of this stuff to wiki so you guys can actually browse the wiki and see these objects. And every once in a while I'll just run the whole thing, probably every day. Day with the meaning of my sub-series, I guess. So I release about 6 videos every weekend and I call those a day. So every one of those quote-unquote days, I'll rebuild my wiki so you can see the changes. But we need to make a change in the system object table finder procedure we created in, I want to say 5, maybe later, and I'll put a link in the description to that video. I don't know if I had communicated this change yet, but I found an issue in the code where if I were to look at a table whose name would be Dataset family, I wouldn't be able to find the proper subject. So what I did is I had to come in here and create this if statement to make sure that I'm trimming that name off, that class family type, so I could find the proper subject. And if I did cover it, I might have only covered the class family type, and with the addition of the realm, I added the realm here. So that is the first change, and the second change is changing the subject name in CFT RFCTR to, well, from equals CFTB to in CFTB RFCT-R. So this will allow us to find our tables. And for archive, I want to go ahead and in my dataset family table, I want to create dataset type table. I want to create 2 more records. And say I'm going to have one be archive. These tables are archive tables. And one more for history. These tables are history tables. Because what's going to happen is that this is going to fail since they're not going to end in class family or type. Instead, they will end in archive or history. Awesome. In this code that we created to try to figure out, so that was our subject ID. This code that we created here still works because they are going to be suffixed all of our tables. We will have database family underscore archive. So the piece of code that we had written, who knows how many, I mean a couple weeks ago, but who knows how many quote unquote hours ago, will still work. It's going to look for a SQL table where the key name being archived and the length of that matches the end of the table that's coming in, and if it's still null, it's going to classify it as a base. So we actually have to we actually have to expand this. So how do I want to do that? That's what I want to do. I'm going to create a new variable. So we're going to separate this. So I'm going to create a new variable and just call it dataset name minus archive and history, because it's still going to follow under the same subject, and we want to still be able to assume that is from the same subject. But we want to get rid of that trailing item. So our key name is trimmed down. That would be our key name. Or say our dataset name minus archive and history equals left. So if right dataset name, let's say archive. Actually, let's just do if the length of dataset name minus the length of underscore archive. Yep. Equals underscore archive. So we're going to take underscore archive out of the dataset name if exists. Then that will be our dataset name. And we'll copy this if and do it one more time with underscore history. If it doesn't fall into either of these categories, then it will just be the dataset name that's returned. Now, because this is minus the archive, we have to update some of the variables below us. Open, close, open. Right, open, open, close, open, close, close. Oh, that needs a close and that needs a close. There we go. That needs a comma. There we go. That's a little easier to read. Okay. So now our dataset key name will be correct. So if we look down here and all we see are key names, then we are correct. We just have to look for dataset name. So this is one of the dataset names that we're going to try to parse off. Our dataset type, realm class family type, archive history domain. So we are going to replace that dataset name with our incoming. And then after this, it doesn't matter, it's just going to get the base. But because we had written the code before, Actually, no. That was the only spot we needed it to make sure that we were in the same subject. Because down here, it's going to look for the dataset name, which will be dataset type underscore archive, and the key name of the dataset type that we added, which is archive. It's going to match the end of that original data set. So we only need this switch for the key name to make sure that we are getting the correct subject. And I want to make sure that we did that modification, or these 3 modifications. Pretty complicated, but not so much at the same time. So that is all we need to do for our table finder. And now we can actually create the tables themselves, which should be pretty simple. I'm going to go grab one of our base and I'm going to make it create archive. But instead, since we should be we should be cleaning up our code, I'm going to pass it in a dataset ID. So with this dataset ID, I will have the full database name, so I can clean up some of my tokens. So use database name, database type just becomes use database name, no DB. Same with the from. I won't need the subject anymore. This will just actually be dataset name. These will be dataset short name, which means we will take TBL off. Same thing for the subject name, same thing for the cleanse to. Oh, actually, hold on a second. Primary key, create table, short name, underscore archive. Is that the one we're doing first? Yep. Where table name equals underscore arc. Dataset name plus underscore archive. Dataset short name underscore archive ID. Group, yes. Specific dataset number, yes. Type ID, no. Action is reserved word str action. UDT standard text. No description, display order, sequences, cleanse to. Yes on the active, valid, archive, display, planned, other security. Oh, don't need action here, that's right. We need the JSON, DBO, UDT, standard JSON. Not null. There we go, that's the difference, my mistake. DTM, date, time, archive, UDT, standard, date, time, not null. Primary key, dataset short name. Underscore archive on primary key. I'll just copy that. And because, forgive me, if you do not want me to call you out by name, let me know and I will drop this video and re-upload it. Database name. There's 3 in there. We are going to stick the table on the cluster, but it was brought to my attention that I should have been dropping this on the index. And these are going to be on archive. So we're going to actually create new files. And this will be database short name because we need to trim off the DB. So it can have FG. And we don't need this anymore because we data drove that. So we can get rid of our defaults finally. Okay. So we have, for our archived, the same primary key and a tenant and a specific dataset number. Very important pieces to identify the object, who owns it, and where it sits physically. The time in which it was archived, the JSON, which will be a capture of the previous record, and our functionality flags, which may never get used, but okay. Primary key with our short name, because actually that should just be dataset name. I forgot that it had DBL in it. This will be our short name because it's as prefix assist, database short name, so we can take the prefix off. Archive. All right. Now for our table create, we have the database name. Database short name. Dataset name. And one more, the dataset short name. And then we're going to execute it, and we're going to get rid of the rest. Oh, one more replace. Okay. Oof. Alrighty. Dataset ID coming in. We need our 4. Two for base, 2 for set, 2 for short. Awesome. Dataset ID coming in. Database ID. just need one more database name. Nope. Database key name. Then I'll get the database type ID. Probably like, what the heck are you doing? It'd be I don't know, man. Alright, let's get the code so it'll make more sense. Get the database, the dataset database ID from DBO VTBL ref dataset select, where the dataset ID equals the incoming dataset ID. With that database ID, I need to figure out what database key name it is. Database type ID. Oh, key name, database key name. From SVTBL, VTBL ref database. Select where database ID equals at database ID. Database key name. And let's say this is on interface, it will return me the word interface. So this is going to be a little confusing. Pull a switcheroo, one more database ID, and that's for archive. So because the database key name is interface, we need to go back into the type and figure out which database is interface's archive, because this will be interface main. So our database name is the database name. And since we're here, actually, and the database short name is the database name. Nope, not here. Nope, I'm right. The length -2. So that will take DB off. From DBO VTBL ref database select where the database key name is the key name that we just grabbed, but the database type ID is in select database type ID from the database type select where the database key name or database type key name is archive. So because the key name is interface, I'm essentially going back in and getting the archive version, kind of reversing it. So in this table, I'll go back and get my dataset short name. So my dataset name is just my dataset name. And my dataset name short is essentially the same thing. But instead of 2 for DB, we need 3 for TBL. A bit of a mind boggle, but because we gave our databases the same key name in their same little purpose, and I'll go show you just so it makes it easier. This will be a longer video, but that's fine because creating the history is going to be just as fast, or it's going to be like a fraction of the time. Because all we have to do is add one more column. So it's going to come in and get interface. Well, in this case, I'll just do system. There we go. Where str key name equals system. So they're all named with the same key name, but they just have different type IDs, and those type IDs are main history archive snapshot. So it's going to get the current one that we're in for main, and it's going to flip it around and get me a different database name, the archive version. Pretty simple. And then because of that, this will be database or DB system archive. This will be system archive. And this will still be like table ref dataset. And this will be ref dataset. And just so we can see it, I'll make this a print. I'm gonna create archive. Excellent. I'll grab this to a new window. Exec at dataset ID equals at or equals 1. So just to make sure, everything filled out correctly. Our dataset archive ID, our dataset archive, FG system archive, cluster, system archive index, dataset archive, system archive. Like, there we go. So definitely creates the script we want, or the object we want. But I need to open my files. And now, because the rule is they should exist everywhere, I'm going to create an archive file that's not going to be used in half of our a fraction of it. But this is the rule that we have to use. We have to be consistent. It's just going to be an 8K file there. So I'll create archive, and while I'm here, while that's creating, I'll also create history. It'll take a little bit. Actually, while that's creating that, I will alter my archive and take away the print and instead execute and save that. So history needs a few changes. Database type key name goes to history. Archive becomes history. History. And we need one more column, and that's the action column. And the action column is just going to be $action. So insert, update, delete. So our history table, our archive files are done. I'm going to run it for history. And I mean, kind of created the create history faster than we created the files. So to actually create these tables, I will open my snippet for Dataset. And I want to give this a filter where the database ID in select database ID. Oh, I'll mix them up. Why not? Database select where the database type ID in select database type ID from vtbl ref database type select where the database type key name equals main. So we're just going to make sure that all the data sets that we get are coming from main. Lastly, nice refresh. Create table archive. Create history. Usually my longer videos I make Shift R. Some mistakes. Cross fingers. Maybe we should do top one. Just because. That is awesome. Shouldn't have done all archive, and that is totally okay. It's the Go issue all over again. Replacing flag other. Is this archive? Oh, I need to go to history and fix my flag because we have an archive flag. Archived. I should have saw that. Longer videos get kind of code blind. Is that it? And that is it. That is it. So in my system history, I should have a dataset table, history, excellent, and an archive, excellent. So now, just let them all go. Boom. There we go. So now we have a spot to store our deleted things, or at least our procedure. Now we have a place to also start recording the changes in data, like the history, what has happened. And we can clear these, we can enable, disable. I'll save the flags for the process, the next video, just because I think we're pretty far on time, but or I've been here for a while. So that is how we are setting up our history and archive tables. And the JSON is going to be simple because when we update, insert, we're going to be there at that moment. And all we're going to do is check a flag. Should I insert this into my history table? And then we're going to pull the whole thing in JSON and save it. Because the column name and value structure is really nice. We can reverse that really fast, and that is SQL 2016 Plus. It's a very good feature. If I was before, I'd be doing XML, and that is a bit more complicated. Fortunately, I am using SQL 2017. So, thank you very much for tuning in. Our next video will be about the change management procedures. And if you have any questions or if I made any mistakes that you've come across, please feel free to leave a comment, and I will try to resolve those. And thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure, and you guys have a great day.